Bailey, are you punking me again?
Sorry, I forget that it does that right as you got it up. But you're good to go.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Today, we want to talk about Private Cloud Business Edition. And what I really want to encourage you to think when we look at this model is that you're going to be able to walk in to a customer now and you have the full stack solution in your back pocket. So really try to embrace that, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. Then I'm going to turn it over to John Busshart, and he's going to kind of walk through some of the cool bells and whistles of this product set. So let's go ahead and take it away. Or not. Let's see here. All right. So I really first want to start talking about HP ProLiant Compute. Our ProLiant platforms, and I'm sure most of you, if not all, sell them, are they're just great server platforms, right? There's so much ingenuity, so much history in these platforms to make them what they are today. So we start out with, we're the only server in the industry that has true root of trust, right? So we are the most secure platform. Why can I say that? Because HP makes their own ASICs, right? So the ASIC that you rely on to have that secure root of trust for trusted upgrades and intrusion and stuff like that, that's their own silicone. Where our competitors, get it from an OEM. So there's always that susceptibility when you're taking, hardware from a different company, to have that interruption. But HPE is a true secure stack. Then if you look at optimized, right, there's decades of innovation and leadership, right, that really shine with today's high performance workloads and AI workloads. HP's even been hitting a lot of world records with their AI inferencing and development and everything out there. So performance is definitely top notch when it comes to the ProLiant server brand. And then automation, right? So for your standalone servers, you're going to look at our fleet management software. You can do a single console and you can manage all of your servers around the world. PCBE is going to have its own management. We'll talk about that today, and that's going to allow that broader management of not only your servers, but your storage as well. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that with John. Now, block storage is also a great message with HPE. Under our Private Cloud Business Edition, we've actually got three products. We've got our SimpliVity, which I'll touch on. We're going to do something more on that in the next couple months because it's new and deserves its own space. But we have our Electra 5000s under the PCBE dHCI platform, and we also have our Electra MPB 10000. Now, for those of you that sold Nimble in the past, our Electra 5000 is our current generation of a hybrid flash. So what does that mean? That means for those customer environments that are maybe price sensitive, right? You can give them a little bit of flash and you give them a lot of storage space. And what that flash does is it optimizes the reads that are, critical for the environment to keep their performance at a certain level. It's backed with the 6.9 of availability, and it's highly scalable. What I'm going to focus more towards today is our Electra MPB 10000, which is our Cadillac storage array. It scales from 2 to 3 to 4 controllers currently, and it'll actually scale up to 385 drives. So this solution is going to be our move forward. Now, you may say, well, Ann, it's all flash NVMe. Well, what I would say back to that is if you do have a customer that's looking at the 5000, which is, again, still a great array, but they're looking at it because they're at a price pinch, right? Maybe they need 200 terabytes of storage and they're just like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to afford all NVMe. I encourage you to take a look at the B10000. Let's stack up both quotes. Ingram's happy to give you options. Options are great when you're talking to end users because then it prevents them from going other places. But if we look at our B10000 and we go ahead, we have QLC drives. So for an environment that doesn't have that heavy write requirement, we can go ahead and get a lot of capacity. Maybe it's a quarter speed of the write or overall expectations of the write drives, but what it does is it gives you that that price point. You need to be able to be competitive in an environment, and then you're still staying with the all-NVMe platform. The B10000 is backed up by 100% uptime guarantee, and if you came to our webinar last week, you would have saw that there are so many cyber resiliency features to be leveraged in the B10000. You've got immutable snapshot capability. You've got the new ransomware detection capability inline in the controllers. There's replication, just tons of great capabilities that again, I'm going to focus on the Electra MP here with our B10000, with our PCBE presentation. Now, if we look here, I want to mention Aruba. Now, of course, PCBE with dHCI, as well as SimpliVity, will support any enterprise switch out there, right? We're not really supporting anything. We're just going ahead and we're joining your network. But if you're looking for switches to basically complete your solution, these new SN8325H switches, 18 ports of 25 gig, 4 ports 100 gig, these have become really popular. So I wanted to throw the slide in there because I want to make sure you're all aware of it. We had our competitor go ahead and they have since end of life their very popular 18 port switch. So this is a nice time that this came out, and we really want to go ahead and promote it. It's been very popular on solutions. I have gone ahead and recommended with customers. It kind of brings that whole converged solution stack together. Now, of course, there's a ton of Aruba switches that are supported. I only put pictures here for a couple because I was running out of real estate, but I listed all the models down here that you can take a look at that are supported with the PCBE product portfolio. Now, why are we looking at these switches in particular? Because they are data center enterprise class switches. So what do I mean by that? Well, they support jumbo frames, right? They support flow control, right? So you're not overpowering your ports, right? If everything needs to slow down, it has the ability to slow down, right? It gives you fast speeds, right? All of these switches, except for this one down here in the corner, are all 25 gig or higher. Okay, and then we've got the 6300 for those that maybe only need 10 gig, and that price point.
Out of session on private cloud business edition.
And then, thank you. And then you want to make sure that your port buffers have enough memory to go ahead and sustain the packets that are being sent over. So all in all, this is an Aruba slide in here. I wanted to put in here, show you all our options, show you our most common switches, and let's go ahead and take it forward. Now, the very exciting thing, and the reason why we wanted to do PCBE again this quarter, was because we wanted to talk about HPE's new hypervisor. So HPE went ahead last May and said, you know, we're thinking about dropping a hypervisor. In June of 2024. They announced it at Discover and said, we are dropping a hypervisor. Then internally, they're like, we bought Morpheus. They were working on one. Let's get together and make it happen, right? So December came along, that hypervisor dropped for your standalone servers, your standalone storage, right? Putting your solution together on your own. But come May, HP's qualified it for PCBE. So when we talk about owning the whole stack, right? If I look at a converged stack of hardware, if I have my servers, if I have my storage, I can put switches in there if I want to. Now I can sell the hypervisor, right? I don't need to dare go outside of HPE for anything, which is a really nice offering, a really nice solution for you to own that stack. But basically, the HPE Morpheus VM Essentials software, you know, it has your standard features of high availability. You can move workloads around. There's an easy setup wizard with the PCBE solution. So we're really looking at, you know, moving to that next step. Now, what is, if you haven't heard about it, what is a VM Essentials? It's a KVM-based hypervisor. Anybody who knows anything about KVM-based hypervisors knows that they've been around for quite some time. So HP just went ahead and built upon the KVM architecture to go ahead and offer this product, but this product at a affordable price point of $600 per year per socket. So we're not worried about core licensing. We're worried about actual socket licensing. Now, for those of you that may have heard of this product, I just want to remind you, or just want to introduce it to everybody, that when you go ahead and you purchase a PCBE solution today with dHCI, meaning you're purchasing it with standalone servers, storage, it's all going to be bundled together under that PCBE you know, cloud bundle, that is going to come with your VM Essential licensing. Now you might be like, well, you know, we're not looking for it. HP's been discounting it down very well. If you have any deal holdups because it is on it, please reach out to me. I'm happy to assist us in moving forward with that. But just keep in mind, it was such an inexpensive proposition. They went ahead and started including it with all of the configurations. Just a reminder, with HP Morpheus for PCBE with dHCI, wow, acronyms are rough. So servers and storage, it's going to be a minimum of 3 hosts, okay? A minimum of 3 hosts, all right? So this slide kind of puts the whole portfolio together. HP introduced this new name a couple years ago, Private Cloud Business Edition. It is not a product, it is a management experience. And under that management experience is dHCI, which is a stack of servers, storage, and potentially networking. And it is our SimpliVity product, right? So this management console will manage both environments. If you have more than one, it'll manage whatever you need it to. It also has some capabilities to go ahead and plug your AWS or your Azure credentials into it. HP's also got some prepackaged solutions that are in Equinix, right? So we could quickly quote those out if somebody's looking for a solution offsite to put in a co-location. We can certainly do that as well. So this is a very comprehensive portfolio, right? Right. So if your customer's looking for, to have some more control of their environment, to be able to scale servers and storage separately, to be able to go in and, really tweak out that performance and have that ultimate, touch, then the disaggregated HCI is a great solution. But for those customers that have edge sites, and edge sites are tough. When you grow data, it's hard, right? Do you have the resources? Do you have the resources to manage it? And most importantly of everything, do you have the backup ability, right? Where are you backing it up? SimpliVity kind of solves all that, right? It allows you to go ahead and manage it remotely. It has some inherencies and backup. It's just an overall great solution from an edge perspective because you're not looking for tweaking out here. You have expected workloads. You have expected expectations of the unit that aren't falling for, what's going on in my environment, what's going to trip me up. That's more of this solution, right? Where you can go in and tweak it and really, get it where it needs to go. But either way you go, you're going to have the ability to go ahead and run the HP Morpheus VM Essentials software. Again, we talked about 3 nodes with our stack being our requirement. Over here with SimpliVity, it's a minimum of 2 nodes, okay? So they've really taken that edge concept to heart, and they went ahead and said, you know what? Because of our technology, which I have a slide on, we can drop this to 2 nodes because we're fully redundant at 2 nodes. So here's my slide. When we come in here and we look at SimpliVity, I just want to go ahead and talk about HPE's focus on this year. So SimpliVity was something that, you may not have felt HPE had their finger on the pulse of it for the past couple years, right? So they've bought a lot of those resources into the SimpliVity portfolio right now, and it's really going to be a focused product going forward. They just launched a new promotion. It's called the SimpliVity Starter Promo. If you buy 6 nodes or less, there is an exceptionally excellent discount that you can go ahead and gather for that opportunity. If it's more than 6 nodes, they're like, just go traditional escalated. We'll still give you a good price. We're just not going to give it that quick path of compensation from a promotional perspective. So if you do have any SimpliVity opportunities out there right now, regardless of whether you're buying the VMware SKUs or you're buying the Morpheus SKUs of the hypervisor, go ahead and ask our Ingram support for that promo, and our pricing team will go ahead and put that on there and show you, how affordable these servers can really be. So why is SimpliVity a cool solution? Well, it's in my opinion, it's cool because it has dedupe and compression, and you're not trading off on those. It's not like, maybe some, let's say, competitors that, when the units become so saturated, they kind of turn off dedupe and compression. Not like that. It's inherent dedupe and compression. You don't have to trade off on them. That's just going to be your expectation on your data. It actually differentiating us from the competition as well. We have inherent backups, right? So you can go in and set up a backup strategy. You can copy those backups over to our store once appliances. If you're not familiar with those are backup appliances. So those are both inherent capabilities. The data protection one has really put us apart from our competition on HCI solutions or hyperconverged solutions. The other thing that does put us apart is our 2-node high availability. So of course you can scale these to 3 nodes, 4 nodes, you can keep going. But with 2 nodes, you're going to get full resiliency. And that's something that's unique because not only are you going to have the capability of copying blocks from one node to another, but you also have an inherent RAID in the box. So the drives are protected, and then your data is protected across the units. So you've got full resiliency and full capabilities on just 2 nodes, as compared to like I said, to others on the market. So just keep that in mind. And that's how we got away with getting 2 nodes with that Morpheus VM Essentials software. But let's move on to our PCBE with dHCI. Remember, that's for the environments that maybe want that deeper touch. I want to go in and be able to grow my storage separately from my compute. I want to go in and be able to tweak my performance. I want to go in and be able to, have multiple clusters, and I want a VMware cluster and a Morpheus cluster, right? My PCB with dHCI is going to give me that robustness with the B10000 storage array. Remember, I'm also getting that 100% data availability guarantee, right? So HP is going to compensate me if I have any outages with that. So that's really, really powerful. But basically, I don't have to worry about overbuying on my storage. I can always add more storage later without having to spend a lot of money on expensive RAM. So no over provisioning. I'm going to get what I needed, and when I want to upgrade, I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to add a server. It's going to be easy to do in my PCBE wizard, or I'm going to add storage capacity, and my array is going to go ahead and absorb that storage capacity and rebalance all my LUNs across all my disks. So that's just a great feature. Now, here's kind of a picture. Again, full stack, right? Private Cloud Business Edition with HPE storage, MP B10000. Our naming isn't the greatest, right? So disaggregated hyperconverged dHCI. So I'm buying my B10000. That might just be one box with 24 disks in it, right? Might be one box with 8 disks in it. 8 disks is my minimum. I can get in the door with the B10000 for a very affordable price, okay? If I need a lot of storage, maybe I'll look at the QLC drives. The QLC drives start at 15 terabytes. 8 of those is a lot, right? So take a look. Then I stack my ProLiant DL servers, whether it be the 360 or the 380 on the Intel side, or the 325 or 385 on the AMD side. I can go ahead and stack my servers appropriately. Maybe for whatever reason, I need to hang on to my VMware cluster. So maybe I have a few servers that are dedicated to VMware, and I have a few other servers where I'm running my Morpheus VM Essentials on it. I can have that ability under dHCI. I can slowly transition, my volumes. Maybe my goal is I'm going to push VMware right out the door, but for right now, I need to make sure everything's working well. Well, this solution is going to give you that. And then, of course, top of rack switches. You can bring your own, or you can, buy HPEs. You just want to make sure they're the data center class switches that really are going to support the performance of the environment and really limit your latency. Again, we support VM Essentials from HPE. We support VMware ESXi. This is one of my favorites, one-click upgrade. I can go in and I can upgrade my entire environment. Switches aren't there yet, but they're getting there. They're really close. But basically, I can go in, I can click on my one-click upgrade. It'll upgrade my OS on my storage. It'll upgrade my firmware. It'll upgrade my service packs on my servers, my firmware. It'll upgrade my operating system or hypervisors in this case, right? So it's going to go ahead and do all that for you. It works very well. John Busshart's done it quite a bit in our business transformation center. If you want to set up a demo with your end users, you are always welcome to email John and go ahead and have that set up and bring your end user with you. So customer purchase scenarios, I like to call this out because it's a little confusing. Again, you can always do greenfield. Greenfield means you're selling the array, you're selling the servers, you're selling the licenses. If you want to buy HPE license for VM Essentials, great. If you're buying VMware, of course, that's through Broadcom. And then you're buying the switch stack. So this is your greenfield solution, right? You're going to go ahead and you're going to buy all the hardware pieces from an HPE perspective and potentially the software. Brownfield is you're going to bring your own switches, right? So you got your hardware pieces. You're going to have VM Essentials on the quote now. If you want to bring your ESXi licenses, you can certainly do that. You got to when you go to install your cluster for either of these solutions, it's going to tell you, hey, would you like to continue with VM Essentials? And you can say no, and you can install your own ESXi bits. HP cannot ship the servers with ESXi imaging anymore. Broadcom has disallowed that. as we move forward. So you'll need to go ahead and have all those bits to load upon installation, but that's going to be in that installation screen. It's going to prompt you and say, which direction do you want to go in? And then Brownfield is bringing your own data center switches. Some customers have Juniper, some customers have Cisco. We respect that. You know what I mean? So that is not a problem. And Ingram's support is always here to help you with cabling and putting your configuration together and making those right selections. And then I just want to talk about the Global's dashboard, right? So when you sell a private cloud business edition solution, you'll have a global dashboard that not only addresses compute, it also addresses storage. So when we take a look at this, you can have that visibility from that single pane of glass, right? That higher level of support. So when you do call in on the support for the PCBE solution, you'll be calling that nimble-based support. They're going to support the whole stack, and that's really the advantage of going ahead and purchasing that disaggregated hyperconverged solution. Having that one-click upgrade, as well as the ease of setup, as well as the ease of expansion, and then of course the manageability. Okay, now I'm going to bounce out of here for a minute, and then I'm going to turn it over to John. I just want to talk about ninjaonline.exe.com. If you are quoting a B10000, and it can be with PCBE or it could be standalone, I just want to remind all of the technical people on here, as well as give awareness to the salespeople, that you're going to need to give them the sizing document from the block storage sizer. So when you go in to size your solution, make sure you're going in here and you're exporting your block sizer. This is very easy to use. I'm just going to run through it really quickly. I'm just going to bolt through these screens. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right, here's my sizer. Okay, those screens are very intuitive. You'll be able to get through them no problem. So I don't want to rush, but I want to make sure I give John his time. So when you come in here, you're going to choose which model you're selling, right? You're going to choose if it's switched or not switched. You're going to choose how many controllers you have. That's the easy part. You're going to choose your network ports, right? If we're doing PCBE, it's probably going to be 25 gig. It could be 10 gig, right? That's fine too. And then I come in here, and here's where I got to pay attention. My capacity, right? Now my capacity has two parts. That first screen I bop through, that's definitely where you can go do it up front. You can always change it here on edit. So basically HPE says on customer data on all other systems around the world, they typically see data that is dedupe and compressible, right? So you might have some databases that are compressible. You might have some files that are deduplicatable. They see an average of 4-to-1 dedupe in compression. Okay, that's what they're seeing from all their customers. However, at the same time, they're seeing of that data, 20% of it is non-reducible, right? So on the average customers, if we look at all their data and average it out, customers in their environment probably have about 20% of data that's not going to take advantage of dedupe and compression. So if we take these two scenarios and we average them out, if this is truly what your customer is going to get, it's about 2.5-to-1, right? So honestly, that's what I've been sizing at if a customer does not know their environment very well for years now. I feel great about it. You can get more granular with your customer. You can be like, how much images do you really have on your system, right? You can get into the weeds. But for me, if I'm talking to a customer, and a lot of end users don't know, if they can tell me, hey, listen, I'm not storing video, I'm not storing imaging, right? I just have databases like SQL, and I just have file serving and VMs, 2.5-to-1 is a pretty safe bet. That's a very conservative bet from my perspective. Now, of course, you can come in and make it more granular. You can definitely adjust these as you're speaking to your customer about their environment, but that is my approach when I go ahead and size. Now we can come in here and we can change our disks. We talked about those QLC disks, right? So 8 of those, look at that. That's great, right? They're going to be inexpensive. They're going to give them about 67 TB, and then with data compaction, it's about 152. This is going to be an array that's very inexpensive from a disk perspective, and then they can grow, right? They can add more enclosures on. This wasn't meant to be a sizing training. I just wanted to talk about when you come in and size it. All the tech people on here, and for sales, I want you to be aware. Go ahead and click on this button. Export this summary document and go ahead and send it in with your UCID. So if you're the SA on the account, you're building out the storage, go ahead into Ninja Online, give your sales rep this PDF document because they're going to need it if they need to escalate pricing. So if they're going to go ahead on the pricing side and say, hey, I need a deeper discount, I'm competing against Dell or I'm competing against Pure, then they're going to need this sizing document to get that done. Kind of a gap. I just wanted to close that gap. And I appreciate your time and attention today. Thank you so much. And John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oops. Let me share my desktop here. Give me a second. It's coming. There we go. And I'll just ask for confirmation that people can see my desktop.
We can see.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show 3 pieces as a part of this demonstration. I'm going to show you, since not everybody knows what VM Essentials look like, I'm going to spend a little time showing you VM Essentials, and then I'm going to review some of the stuff we had last webinar, why to use VM Essentials with the Electra MP, and then we're going to talk about, Private Cloud Business Edition and the management piece within that. That kind of sums up everything that's kind of associated with this solution, and usually the questions that I get about this solution. So what we're looking at here is the management interface for VM Essentials. So I've been doing VMware since, I don't know, if some of you guys remember ESX 2.0, I've been managing VMware environments since then. I used to do GSX, if you guys remember that. All right, so I'll make a lot of analogies to VMware, so people can wrap their heads around things. So this is, I would say this is like vCenter, right? So if we're looking over here, this would be a vCenter environment. This would be my central management plane in the VMware. This is my central management plane for a Morpheus VM Essentials bundle. As a matter of fact, it is run as a virtual machine. If I go into provisioning and incidences, this incident holds this one virtual machine in here. All right, just like VMware can do. All right, now let's talk a little bit about what incidences are as opposed to virtual machines, or what's the connection, because that's something that is a little bit different when you do look at VM Essentials. It's nothing too crazy. More often than not, when you work with your customer, one incident will contain one virtual machine. But if I go down inside maybe something like this movie virtual machine, you can see the incident name. If I scroll down a little bit, this is the one virtual machine that's in it. So the idea of this is that this is obviously a subset of Morpheus Enterprise solution. Morpheus Enterprise can manage all kinds of things. It can manage Kubernetes clusters. It can manage public clouds. It can manage Azure. It could manage Nutanix. It can manage all those underneath one interface. Now, Morpheus VM Essentials can manage VMware and VM Essentials, side by side in the environment. And that's actually what I'm doing with this cluster, as I'm managing both VMware as well as VM Essentials that are in there. So the idea with an incident is you'd have multiple of the same configuration within this. So I have multiple virtual machines that are configured exactly the same. So I don't see a lot of that, but you can. I would say this is probably more applicable to maybe somebody who's running Kubernetes, where they might have 100 incidences of web service, something like Nginx in there, and they want to manage that as a single entity. So that's kind of the relationship here. I do bring it up because you get different options at an incident level. For example, I got backups. So this has a backup solution built in. You can actually back up off this environment to something external. It could even be a store once box if you wanted to be. I get things like snapshots, right? If I go into the virtual machine itself, so I'm going to click on the virtual machine, you can see compute and then the virtual machine name. It's kind of unfortunate that they're named the same. I have other options such as I could do managed placement, so I could do the vMotion alternative, if you will. But I can get a console to this machine as well. Right? Click on this. I can interact with this if I wanted to. Right? And if I wanted to do the live migration of virtual machine between different hosts, like the virtual machine vMotion alternative, I go down here, manage placement. Oops, click manage placement. And then I'll change the host. We'll put it over here and save changes. And now this guy is going to start to migrate. We could see that up here, as well as if I go down here under history, I'll probably need to refresh. All right, we could see that happen down here as well, and I can get all kinds of information on that. Right, and that's just kind of get your head wrapped around what I'm showing you here. This is VM Essentials. Obviously, you can interact with me within the Business Transformation Center. I demonstrate all HPE solutions across stack from within our environment. You can get hands-on with the equipment as well if you wanted to. But I'm here to help you with this and do these type of events, train your internal staff, or I'm available for end users as well. But let's at least get your head wrapped around, um, uh, what VM Essentials is. Now, VM Essentials works better with the Electra MPB 10,000 based system. And I want to make sure I touch on that because this is how the stack works within a private cloud business solution, private cloud business edition solution based on dHCI, disaggregated hyperconverged. Right. So the way this works is that this is integrated in with the B10,000, and there's a special integration. If I go under infrastructure and down to storage, right, and I look at servers here, you can see I have the storage integrated. Now, without a PCBE solution, right, I'd have to go through and add the storage, right, and then put in my IP address of the management interface for the storage system, then in my username and password, and it'd be available, right? So that's kind of the easy button for getting storage integrated. Now, outside this, you're going to integrate some other storage. Most of the documentation talks about integrating it in through a CLI. So it's a lot of Linux commands that you run. If you've done, iSCSI inside Linux or Ubuntu, this would be no problem for you, but something you have to do once across each of the hosts to get it connected, right? But in here, it's a lot easier to do it because you add it here, right? And then under clusters, right? And there's my VM Essentials clusters here, right? Just like with VMware, I present storage to the cluster. I'd go under storage, right? And then with this, if I go add, I'll get the option for Electra storage, and then I'd give it some type of name, and I click save, and that's what I've done here. Now, Private Cloud Business Edition is a part of its deployment. We'll do all this for you, so you don't need to do any of that. So the point I'm trying to bring up here is without an Electra MP, right, you're going to have to go through some CLI commands to be able to get that integrated in on each of the hosts, right? With the Electra B10,000, it's easy because you just add it in through this wizard interface, and with a Private Cloud Business Edition, it's even easier because all you have to do is just go through the deployment process. All right, so what does this plugin give me? Why would I want to use this? Because I could certainly deploy a B10,000 with VM Essentials the traditional way if I wanted to, but you'll often hear HPE say this will be a lot like vVols, and I don't know. I guess I get their point, but let me describe exactly what they're doing with that, or why they are saying that. So if I look in the Electra MP, right, and this is the local management interface. We don't hear a lot about it. It exists. The only reason why I'm using this is because I feel that I could see the changes a little bit quicker, right? So if I go over to storage here and I look at my virtual volumes, since we could see them here, I could certainly go into the GreenLake platform, go into data services, right, and then over to block storage here. Right. Go into the dashboard, look at storage. All right, now I'll be managing all my arrays. So I have a bunch of arrays inside the Business Transformation Center. All right, I could filter those down over here if I wanted to. We'll just do the Electra MP. We'll apply, and here's those same volumes that are over here. Now, the only reason why I'm using the local management interface, I think changes happen a little quicker. Obviously, with the cloud, there's usually, a couple extra seconds before it shows up. But so that's why I'm using this at any rate. So if I look at each one of these virtual machines, right, you can see here's my VMware virtual machine. So I'm just talking about the VM Essentials. All right, anything that I've deployed using the Electra B10,000, Electra MP B10,000 system will have its own volume. So for example, we can see this Windows 2K22 snapshot VM. If I go up here and I select this entity here, you can see this is that virtual machine itself. So I wish I did a little bit better naming convention, but this is what they're using. And there is. So each one of these volumes is dedicated to a virtual machine. So why is this good? Well, there's a variety of reasons why, because now I can adjust performance, not on an entire volume containing many virtual machines, right? I can just performance on maybe that very important database server. Maybe I'm doing site-to-site replication and I don't want to do an entire volume with all the virtual machines. Well, now I can go in and pick and choose which virtual machines. I think what's most pertinent here is how we integrate in with snapshots. And I plan to show that to you in a little bit. But let's go back and let's show, we'll create a virtual machine and show you how it creates a volume in here. So if you notice right now, we have 7 volumes kind of created over here. Right, so I'm going to go, here I am back in VM Essentials. I'm underneath incidences. I'm going to click add. I'm going to click the HPE VM, the VM Essentials hypervisor. Right, group the cloud. We're going to give it a name. I'm just going to call this delete me. We'll call this delete me. I don't know, 1. All right, I'm going to click next. I'm going to do a single VM. I don't know, I'm going to make this a small Ubuntu server. Right, I'm going to put it on our Electra MP. Now, if I left it at auto, it would have grabbed the Electra MP anyways. I got to grab a networking. So a lot of this is the same type of things you need to answer inside VMware. Now I need to grab an image, right? Now within VMware, there are VMDK files. In this environment, they're called QCOW2 files. So I'm going to grab my base Ubuntu server down here, right? I'm going to click next. Right, obviously, Morpheus is famous for their tasks that you can run against devices, right? So I have the ability to do that here. I'm not going to do that here right now. I'm going to click next and then complete, and this is going to go start to deploy. So again, remember we had 7 volumes representing 7 virtual machines I had inside this environment. So we can see this one's deploying. If I go up inside the Electra MP, we can now see we have 8 volumes that are created. I don't know which one it is. There it is. So we could see that this volume has been created related to that. All right, and this will go through and this will deploy that virtual machine inside this volume and make it available to us. All right, so I also mentioned snapshots inside this environment. So let's go look at that other virtual machine that I was showing you, and let's talk about virtual machine snapshots. So down here, I'm going to grab this snapshot virtual machine. All right, if I look at backups, so underneath backups, we'll not only see backups that are offloaded to an external repository, but we'll also see local snapshots as well. You can see I have 4 of them listed down below. Now, the snapshots in this environment, without this special integration with the B10000, right? Without that, right, we want to pay attention to our snapshots the same way we'd pay attention to snapshots inside VMware. They are file-based. So what happens when you take a snapshot inside VMware? Well, it takes the main VMDK file and it freezes it, and it starts to create a Delta file with all the changes to that virtual machine. And if you take another snapshot, it freezes that Delta file and it creates a new Delta file. So if you need to get information, right, or make changes, do writes, right, it needs to go through the stack of those files to get that information. So generally speaking, it's not a good idea to keep snapshots around for a long time because they grow, and the more they have to grow, the more the environment has to figure out. It just slows down the virtual machine, right? The same thing I would say is true inside VM Essentials. Without this integration, it will be a file-based snapshot. So the general rule of thumb is maybe you're doing a service pack upgrade for an application or an operating system or something like that, right? You might take a snapshot before you apply that, right? Apply the update. If it works, great, you move forward. If it didn't work, you revert the snapshot, kind of your safety net, when you're doing those upgrades, right? But as soon as you were done and everything was working, you get rid of that snapshot, right? In this environment, when you do that special integration with the B10000, it's better because it's going to be array-based snapshots. So again, we could see I've taken 4 snapshots here. If I go up inside the array, right, and here we are, we'll back up here. Here's our volume with snapshots. We could see that I have 4 snapshots in the array. So these are array-based snapshots. So you can certainly take these snapshots and there won't be that performance hit that you get with a traditional virtual machine snapshot that exists. And they're pretty quick. So if I go over here and I select actions and I say take snapshot, right, I'll click complete. right? It only shows up 4 here, but it will change. But if we look up here, we can see now I've got 5 copies or 5 snapshots, right? And if we go over here, we can see the other one shows up. I can also go in there and delete the snapshot if I wanted to. Oops, delete. There we go. And again, I'll go back inside the array and we will see, even on this menu, it's reduced itself down to 4, right? And snapshots work just like they have in the past. So for example, if I open up a console on this virtual machine, all right, we all know this person in our office. They've got their entire desk filled with icons. And this is sometimes what I feel like doing. I like going over there and deleting them all, right? Go there and delete them. Right, but then I start feeling guilty, right? Because my desktop probably isn't any better than theirs is. So now I want to revert that, give them back their information. So we'll go back over to backups, right? We'll go down to the snapshot and I'll click revert. Right, and we'll come back in a little bit and we'll see that will have reverted in that virtual machine. Now, what I will say is the file-based snapshots are a little bit faster. Not that these recover too slow, but the file-based ones are a little bit faster. These do recover. They just maybe take just a few seconds extra longer in order to be able to bring them back up. And we can see that backup is happening here, or that snapshot reversion is happening there. Right, so that kind of gives you an idea of VM Essentials as far as the management capability, its special integration with the Electra MP, or even with block storage, right? That's one of the nice things about buying a disaggregated hyperconverged solution from HPE. The storage isn't dedicated to the hyperconverged solution, right? The storage can be used elsewhere. So I could certainly go inside block storage here, create a volume on this array, and then present that to something external to this VM Essentials cluster. Maybe you have a standalone Windows server, and that's fully supported, whether you're doing the VMware-based PCBE or dHCI, or you're doing the VM Essentials version of dHCI. With traditional hyperconverged solutions, that storage exists inside that hyperconverged solution. You can't export that anywhere. So that's another nice reason for using a disaggregated hyperconverged solution. But I think a lot of times what people use disaggregated hyperconverged solutions for is to get this PCB or Private Cloud Business Edition tile. So this does exist within the GreenLake platform. So keep in mind, GreenLake isn't just a cost model that HPE's. GreenLake can also be a management context, and you don't necessarily have to do the cost model to get the tile and management tile for Private Cloud Business Edition. So Private Cloud Business Edition can exist at your main workspace, your main landing page. It can also exist within data services as well. So if I launch this, you'll see block storage, data ops, which is used to manage an Electra MPB 10,000 system, as well as the Electra 6,000, 5,000, as well as some older systems as well. But you can also see we have Private Cloud Business Edition listed over here. So I'm going to launch that. And we're going to take a look at this. Now, my pride is at stake, and I always do live demos, and I know our eyes are drawn to the red over here, right? We can see that's on the Electra MP. So let me protect my pride and show you what that is. So if I go over here and to systems, now my Electra MP B10,000 based solution based on dHCI was originally a VMware solution that I converted on over. So if I go into this system, what we'll see is I've got a non-compliant error. So if I open this up, all right, and view more details, what's happening here is I've upgraded my firmware to a newer version than what's on their baseline. All right, so that's why we're seeing that. So again, I'm just protecting my pride. So as we look through this, you'll understand kind of what we're looking at. But at any rate, let's go back over to the dashboard. So the dashboard's nice. I could see all my hyperconverged solutions listed over here. So SimpliVity, Electra MP, Electra dHCI solutions, as well as Nimble. So this also supports older solutions that are out there. So I had a SimpliVity solution that I've had for many years. Right, I added in the data service connector in there, which you could certainly do. It's just a matter of downloading the files and deploying them and then connecting up. And now you can manage a SimpliVity environment. Right? So you have the ability to be able to do that, as well as an older like AF40, or if you've got an Electra 5000 or 6000, you can bring those in as well. All right, and we'll also use that data collector for the Electra MPB 10,000 dHCI solution. We'll talk a little bit about that as we go into this. So again, we're on the dashboard. All right, so I'm managing everything holistically. I can see my system health. Right, any announcements? You can see all my arrays exist in Buffalo near Niagara Falls. Right. Again, I'm going to go back down to systems and then back into our Electra MP dHCI solution, Private Cloud Business Edition solution. You can see my cluster is healthy. You can see the system is up to date. Get some general information. All right, we can see my one error showing up here. We can also see software, and we can see that it's up to date. Right, the update process is just as Ann mentioned it. You need to update an entire stack. You're going to click this. It'll say software update available up there instead of up to date. And when you bring it up, you'll select it. You'll run a refresh the software version. You'll do a pre-check, and then you'll do an update, and it'll update the entire stack. And let me tell you, that's been a lifesaver. I haven't done it with VM Essentials yet because I don't have a newer version to do it with, but I've certainly done it with the VMware based solutions. And I'll tell you what, I upgraded my 2 clusters based on vSphere 7 up to 8. It took me less than a half a day to do both clusters, and it does everything. It does the firmware on the array. It will do the firmware on the servers themselves, and it'll actually even do the hypervisor update, right? And it'll do it in an automated fashion, migrating virtual machines around and things of that nature. So it's a very good solution to be able to use, and it'll save you a lot of time. You know, that of within and of itself is keeping everything up to date very quickly. Like, that's worth the entire solution. So we can also see servers here, and we can also see storage. I will say that the integration with VM Essentials, with Private Cloud Business Edition is growing, or it is developing. Right here under clusters, I'd expect that I could click on that and see virtual machines, but they are not just quite there yet. So I'm going to show you my dHCI solution that I have that's based on the Electra 6000, or what we'd be selling nowadays is a 5000 base solution. So and that'll be a part of this cluster over here. So real quick, just to show you the benefits that are coming. If I go back to systems, I'm going to grab this Electra dHCI solution, and here you can see the cluster is selectable. I can also go to servers, add a server, as well as storage. I can even add storage into this environment if I needed to. All right, but we're going to go to clusters, and I'm going to select the cluster itself. These are all my virtual machines that are running. Right, again, all these virtual machines that are here that are running. I could click add. I'm going to create one virtual machine, and again, I'm going to call this delete me VM 1, maybe, I don't know. We'll click next. I'm going to put it on that Electra cluster. Right. I'm going to select the storage volumes. So these are the volumes that are on the array itself. I'm just going to select that volume there because I know it's got a little room that I can use. And these will be the templates that I have available for deployment. So I have an older Ubuntu server that's available. Actually, not this one. We'll go up a little bit. We'll use this guy up here. There we go. And I'll click next. All right, data encryption, duplication. Here's where I could set that hardware limit as far as IOPS and things like that. Again, with VM Essentials integrated with PCBI, this will be something where you could limit the performance on a particular volume if you needed to. Right. So after that, I'm going to click create, and this is going to go through and actually deploy that virtual machine inside that environment. All right, so if I give it a few seconds, I could probably go up in the vSphere environment, and then we'll see this guy show up sooner rather than later. We'll come back and we'll see that deploying for us in a little bit. Right. We can also go back to our VM Essentials environment. Let's check our snapshot. So it looks like our virtual machine is deployed over here. We can also go down to our snapshots here, open up a console real quick. You can log in here. Oops, if I could type right. See if all this guy's icons are back. Let's try that one more time, but much slower. There we go. All right, so we can see I've saved the day. I've got all my icons back. Obviously, I get my crash consistent message here. If I go over here, all right, so we can also see that our virtual machine is now deploying. If we look in here, we can see that virtual machine's getting deployed over here. Now, the nice thing about Private Cloud Business Edition, I can not only from a cloud manage my on-prem hardware as if it was a cloud, but I can also manage public cloud capabilities as well. So if I go over here and I go down to administration, you can see I have cloud accounts that I can add. And you can add Azure, you can add AWS. And when you do that, you're going to get these public cloud VMs that are going to show up within this interface. All right, so I have my Azure environment, and these are all the virtual machines that exist on it. If I go up, excuse me, my AWS environment, and these are all those same virtual machines that exist. As a matter of fact, if I go over here and type HPE, you can see, obviously I'm sharing this with somebody. You can see my HPE VMs right there, right? But I do have the option to deploy new virtual machine inside Amazon EC2 if I wanted to. So if I go back over to my management interface, I could click the plus sign over here. And again, Azure supported, Amazon Web Services supported. I'm going to give it a name. We're going to call it HPE. Again, I'm just going to go with the delete me naming convention. We'll do 1, 2. We're going to select my account. We're going to do it in North Virginia. And I got to put my key pair. This is just something that's required. HPE, BTC, dHCI. And we could talk about what that is later on. I'm going to click next. All right, I'm going to find an image, and I'm just going to, obviously, I'm a Ubuntu fan. So let me go grab a Ubuntu image. All right, I'll grab this maybe. We'll click next. And I'm cheap, so I'm going to look for the free tier. That's got to be in here. There we go, free tier. We'll do micro. Click next, right, and then click create. And this is actually going to reach inside my Amazon account and actually deploy this inside that environment. As a matter of fact, if I go back up here and I do a refresh, you'll see that guy's getting created over here as well. So this truly becomes your central management in plane for whether it's a private cloud or a public cloud-based solution inside your environment. Now, I think we only have 5 more minutes. I want to leave a little room for questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about the deployment of the solution or what you're going to go through. Now, what I will tell you is this is going to be a faster deployment than a traditional deployment if you had to go through and do VM Essentials or VMware, and you're doing servers, storage, and networking in an environment. Right. I will say probably the first one, you'll probably want to get your sea legs on going through it, so it'll probably take a little longer. But after you understand the process for deployment, right, you'll be able to deploy these very, very quickly, very, very fast environment. And it's very, very resilient to mistakes as well. So what you will do is you'll start off with this discovery tool, and you'll run this on a system that's somewhere on the same subnet as where your storage array, and you'll just drop in your serial number here, you'll discover it, and you'll launch it. And basically this process just puts an IP address on the array. All right, once that's done, all right, if I look under my Electra MP, right, and I could look at that under here. You can see I've got 3 servers, right? We can look at that under the VM Essentials solution as well. So I could go down to cluster here. Here's the cluster, all right? And we could see hosts here. You can see I have 3 hosts. So before I brought these hosts into this interface, they all booted up and they all started a virtual machine. And what that virtual machine was this data services connector, but they're not married up with the cloud. So basically you're going to grab one of those VMs, and you're going to go in there, get it information about your GreenLake account, right, your workspace and things like that, and it's going to connect itself up to the GreenLake cloud. Right, and then you'll see it's up here. It'll be connected, but it won't be deployed yet, is what I'll say. And then you'll go over here to setup. Right, and this is, you won't see it here. I'm kind of sad because it disappeared on me, because it wasn't here, but you'll see that show up in here as ready to deploy, and you'll click on that and it'll go through the deployment. Obviously there's going to be information you're going to need IP addresses, you're going to need usernames, you're going to need passwords and things like that. There is a workbook that'll help you through that deployment, collect all that information before you go through that. But fear not, if you do fail, so maybe you had a duplicate IP address, maybe you cabled something wrong on the array, right? It'll go through, it'll fail, right? It'll tell you what's wrong. And in my case, when I converted my system on over, right, I had taken the third host and I had put 2 of the cables in wrong. It came across that, it ran it, it failed, right? I went and made those changes, right? Came back and restarted it up the deployment and it went through again. So it's very resilient to mistakes. But like I said, you'll go through that, you'll get through your sea legs on it, but after you're done, it'll be easy sailing from there. You won't have any problems deploying this solution at all. Right, so that was a lot of information. I'm going to hand it back to Anne, I believe, so she can close this on out. All right, I'm available for any other questions. If you have other questions, we can go into detail on all of this. But again, back to you, Anne.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for attending today. We appreciate your time and attention. We will go ahead and send the presentation out along with the recording. It'll take us a couple days to get the recording in tip-top shape. So everybody have a great rest of your day. And again, we appreciate you joining us today.
Have a nice day, everybody.